Mullender. And it's worth noting that Mark Mullender is the only player in the World Cup thus far to have 6-0 in all of the sets they have played. Absolutely phenomenal. Will they be able to keep it up?
Well, that is a big question, and one that we're going to be able to answer in just a moment. But here, let's have a look at this team. A really solid composition. Rillaboom, Volcarona, Dragonite, Sneasler, Electabuzz, and King Gambit. And Sneasler with the Unburdened, but with Grassy Seed this time, boosting up its defensive capabilities, but also getting that speed boost with the Grassy Seed and Unburdened combination there in pairing with the Rillaboom. And of course, Rillaboom supporting the Dragonite, supporting the Volcarona, supporting the King Gambit, as well as the Electabuzz in being able to boost up with Swords Dance, Quiver Dance, and Scale Shot, of course, that offensive move on Dragonite that's really picked up in popularity.
This is what I like to call a boogie team, Ben. All the dancing going on. We often see Volcarona with Quiver Dance paired up alongside King Gambit with the Swords Dance, getting into the festive dancing spirit here. And yes, of course, as long as that grassy terrain is active on the field, then the Sneasler will get an immediate boost to its defenses as well. And as well as the Scale Shot that can come out from the Dragonite, boosting up its stats that way round too. So unless there's a haze over on the other side of the field, Mark could run absolutely crazy with all of these boosts. It's a good thing that we've got some fake out pressure from the Rillaboom and Follow Me from the Electabuzz to able to enable those setup pieces.
And Mark's going to be well versed, as we know that he's 6-0 already, in being able to find a winning position, play against some different teams. One of the big nuances in playing in World Cup is that, well, every match that you play is just one match. You're not preparing for 7 or 8 rounds of Swiss. You're preparing for one opponent. And that means that you've got a little bit more license to play a little bit differently, try to maybe counter team your opponent. Let's see how Rajan has built. He is a team builder. He's someone that really does like going against the curve, and well, he's going to be going right the way against the curve here, using the first partner Pokemon that maybe you weren't expecting to see.
The license to thrill indeed. There's Blastoise, the water type first partner Pokemon from Kanto, holding the Mystic Water no less, with the Terra Water, Water Spout, Muddy Water. That's right, it's going to be an absolute deluge on the field. And Blastoise is a Pokemon I've experimented with before in Regulations at Age. It's the only Water Spout user in the format. And it's a move that's more powerful the more HP your Pokemon has. And that is boosted by the rain that can be provided by Pelipper thanks to its Drizzle ability. And then boosted, of course, by that held Mystic Water and the Terra Water as well. Can be a very difficult Pokemon to pilot, but with Shell Smash there too, your opponent also can't play too passively in the face of you, because then you're boosting up your attacking stats as well as your speed, albeit dropping your defenses. Our child on there, able to benefit from the rain as well, thanks to the Electro Shot.
And of course, you've got this combination of Trick Room and Tailwind, Tail Room, as it's commonly known in the community. But that can help Pokemon like Blastoise quite a lot, and Pokemon like Archaladon that sit sort of in the middling speed tiers, where you get the opportunity for Blastoise to go for a Trick Room. You get the opportunity for it to go for a Shell Smash, maybe in Tailwind as well, to boost it up to be faster. So Rajan has a lot of opportunity here to be able to find the speed tier that he wants to fit into and really try to make his team fit into that as best he can, depending on what his opponent is using.
Really crucial to note as well that Rajan's Magmar does have access to Clear Smog, so there's your answer for removing the stat boost that can come out from Mark's side of the field. King Gambit immune to poison type moves thanks to being a steel type, but if it terrestrializes into a pure dark type, then it no longer is. So you will often see on top trainers teams some way to remove stat boosts, be it a haze, be it a Clear Smog. Really nice to be able to tech this onto the Magmar, which is a Pokemon that in some situations just wants to run multiple moves, more than 4. You know, it has access to Helping Hand. You might want to go for Heat Wave in order to deal some spread damage, but as it is, Rajan deciding on these 4 moves, we'll have to see if it's enough, and hopefully we'll be able to get into our game very shortly, and I cannot wait to see what Rajan's Blastoise is able to achieve here. I'm expecting big things, to be honest with you, Ben. If Blastoise doesn't win, I might just have to sulk for a bit.
Yeah, I think you and me both, Charlie. And actually, that's what I was about to say. I'm glad you mentioned the Blastoise, because I just want to see it. That's it. I just want to see the Blastoise. I don't mind if it wins or it loses. We'll have to see. But here it is. Yes, it's here. Turn 1. Let's go, Charlie.
I thought it would be here. Here's the Blastoise, because there's nothing that's threatening too much over on Mark's side of the field immediately. I mean, you have Rillaboom, you have Electabuzz, but you may as well lead it just in case you can get off one of these big water spouts. And this is the thing. Even though there could be threats over on the other side of the field, if you can get one of your incredibly heavy offense dealers in the right position, then you may as well just go for it. And if they happen to have a lead that counters it, well, you just do some pivoting around. But really nice that Rajan stuck to what they planned to do, bringing out the Blastoise, because it's worked out pretty well for them in this lead.
Now, the tricky thing for the Blastoise is that Electabuzz is likely to outspeed it. With the Electro Web as well, being able to put super effective damage on it, it's going to be able to weaken the Water Spout, make sure that the Dragonite isn't going to be moving first as well, and kind of stops any sort of Indeedee switch in. But here it is, the Electro Web coming into that Dragonite, coming into the Blastoise, doing a good amount of damage to both, and being able to drop their speed, but Dragonite has something to say about that.
Dragonite still moves next with the Tailwind, and there's the massive Water Spout, still faster than the King Gambit. Not the fastest Pokemon by any stretch of the imagination. The Water Spout not dealing the most meaningful damage there, but I'll tell you what is the Kowtow Cleave. Blastoise should have knelt in the face of the King Gambit rather than the other way around, surrendering, because it's already down and out. So it was here for a good time, not a long time, Ben, but at least it was fun.
If you want to go and sulk now, Charlie, I'll handle this for the rest of the game. You can come back to game 2 if you want. No, that's a really big KO for Mark to be able to get, and certainly solidifies a good position. Yes, Rajan did get some good chip damage onto both the King Gambit and the Electabuzz, and he was able to get up Tailwind, and that speed order that you pointed out there, Charlie, I think was a really big deal. But now this Archaludon and whatever remaining Pokemon that Rajan has in the back has got a little bit of extra work to do. You can't safely go for something like a Body Press into the King Gambit because Electabuzz can just redirect that attack. My question is whether or not the Dragonite would be able to knock out the Electabuzz to allow that Body Press to be able to bypass the Follow Me and attack into the King Gambit for super effective damage. These are the margins, and this is the training that's really important in these sort of situations. And Mark, I think, will be a little bit more aware of that because, well, he trained the Electabuzz. He knows exactly how much damage that it's going to be taking.
My suspicion would be, at this range, the Electabuzz would still hang on even through a 5-hitting scale shot. But not going to be that. It's just going to be boosting up the Body Press immediately into the Archaludon, thanks to the extreme speed. So it gets a boost to its defense thanks to its stamina. This could well be huge in just removing this Electabuzz far quicker than you might have been able to before. How much is it going to do? I doubt it's going to knock it out, and there we have that confirmation, down to about a third of its health. But leaving the King Gambit free here to go for the Sword Dance, Body Press threatening it hugely, but not when there's an Electabuzz on the field saying, hey, come back with me to the Kanto Power Plant, let's have a good time. Whereas Archaludon is sort of sulking in the corner saying, I don't want to go to the Kanto Power Plant.
I don't want to do it. And like, I've got to point out how Ron held the belief that Rajan's a very intelligent player, and he's showing that now. Getting the extreme speed off, knowing the speed tiers that it's going to be going before the Electabuzz Follow Me. Dragonite probably not going to be able to pick off the Electabuzz, and instead Rajan deciding to set up the Archaludon, where the King Gambit wants to maybe try to go on the offensive and put a big damaging Kowtow Cleave into that. Archaludon with a 1 defense boost is a lot more of a different proposition to be able to handle, and Rajan really showing that he's thinking about the long game, not just the short game.
Well, for now, Dragonite's going to be completely switching up its typings, becoming a Fairy type. The exact opposite of Dragon, perhaps, but that heart certainly suiting its friendly expression. Responding Terror coming out from Mark Mullender. Love the way Mark's rendered their hair in-game, because it's done a really good job of mimicking that photo, actually, as King Gambit just becomes that pure Dark type, so it won't be taking as much damage from a Body Press as it would have done before, albeit with the Archaludon at +1 in its defense. Electabuzz once more, perhaps sort of grimacing, saying, I'm going to be taking a lot of damage here, but that is my role on the team. Sucker Punch connecting down into the Dragonite. It's still huge damage after the Sword Dance, and a resisted hit with the multiscale broken, but not enough. Electabuzz, though, just so bulky with the Eviolite held item, but just the 1 scale that Dragonite needs to fling at it to secure the knockout.
And nice that the Dragonite was able to land that scale shot. That's a really, really big deal. And what a great terrestrialization there for Rajan. Just predicting that instead of the Sucker Punch going into the Archaludon as the maybe more obvious threat for Mark's team, actually it was going into the Dragonite to stop something like a scale shot knocking out the Electabuzz or doing a lot of damage now that Mark's gone for the Terra Dark and shed that steel typing that makes it resist a scale shot. So yeah, really nice combination of things going on there for both of these players. They're both sort of dancing around each other. You mentioned earlier this team that Mark's running is a little bit more of a boogie kind of team. Well, these trainers are really showing that they're boogieing around each other so well. This is such a high level game.
I'm trying to imagine a Blastoise dancing, and I don't think it's going to go very well for it. Yeah. But I can picture it doing.
You've not seen it in the club.
Doing some fun break dancing, spinning around on its shell on the floor. That could be good. Yeah. But as it is, no more shenanigans coming out from Blastoise here. Now, this game state with Rajan's Dragonite so low, but at least the scale shot, it didn't do much damage there because it didn't need to, because the Electabuzz was in such low health. But crucially, gave it that boost to its speed. The Rillaboom is providing an active fake out right now, and so Rajan's Dragonite perhaps wanting to go for a Protect just to get as much mileage out of it as they possibly can. The Archaldon doesn't have that luxury. With the Assault Vest being held, it cannot go for any status moves.
The thing that you've got to consider here if your Mark is like, yeah, okay, you can fake out into the Archaldon, you can get a Kowtow Cleave into that slot. That's probably going to do you some favours, but it's going to give Archaldon another defense boost. But here's the Dragonite. Not going for the Protect whatsoever, going for the extreme speed. It's going to out-prioritize the Grassy Glide coming out from the Rillaboom, of course, and be able to knock out that Dragonite, but not before Archaldon gets yet another defensive boost to be able to deal with this Sucker Punch just that little bit easier.
I really like the way Rajan's played this, even though that Sucker Punch was maybe a little bit close for comfort in terms of the amount of damage that it dealt there. Body Press now hugely boosted up, and with the Electabuzz no longer on the field, Archaldon could just roam completely free. Rillaboom, physical attacker, it can threaten down with a high horsepower that's super effective, but after a couple of stamina boosts, it's still not threatening the Archaldon that much. We know that for Mark in the back, it's going to be the Sneasler too. Again, threatening super effective damage with the close combat. Maybe a double up would be able to secure it, but we still have the one Pokemon lurking in the back for Rajan. Could well be the Pelipper, and as I say it, there it comes, in order to provide the rain for what was once the Blastoise, but of course now also meaning that Electroshock can go off in one turn.
Yeah, and the Electroshock is definitely going to be one of Rajan's thoughts going into this turn. You don't really want to go for a Draco Meteor. You still need some of those special damaging moves to be able to knock out the Sneasler, but I really like the situation that the Pelipper finds itself in here, being able to go for a Hurricane into both the Rillaboom and the Sneasler for super effective damage, but also be able to try to set up that Tailwind again and get our Archaldon to be a little bit faster, certainly faster than the Rillaboom. Now, that Archaldon's had free stamina boost already. That means this Sneasler's probably not going to be able to knock out this Archaldon in one shot, even with a close combat from half of its health. The question is whether or not you follow that up with a high horsepower, or whether you just try to chip it down a little bit further with the Rillaboom.
Pelipper's still pretty threatened here by the Grassy Glide that can come out. It's holding the Focus Sash. High horsepower, I mean, just look at how well Archaldon takes that. And then it grants it another boost to its stamina, to its defense. Hurricane was targeting down the Sneasler, though, so good calls from both trainers here. But it's fantastic that Rajan has this option with the team to say, okay, stepping on the gas with the Blastoise didn't work. That's fine. I can slow things down, I can build a bridge over troubled water, I can get the Archaldon in, and it's a Pokemon that can be so difficult to remove. It's a Pokemon that can easily 1 versus 4 some matchups.
It depends on the training now here. Coming into this turn, is the Pelipper or the Rillaboom going to be the faster of the two Pokemon? A Pelipper will be able to knock out the Sneasler this turn unless the Rillaboom and Sneasler go for a double up into the Pelipper. Because of its Focus Sash, it is going to hang on. And of course, close combat now after that high horsepower, even with the extra stamina boost, probably does put the Archaldon in range. And here it is, coming into the Archaldon. Oh, it's not in range!
The Archaldon is hanging on. That extra stamina boost provided by the horsepower, absolutely crucial there. The high horsepower, not sure that stamina is going to matter much there, mate, with the defense being down on such low HP, but certainly able to secure the knockout onto the Rillaboom. And that is the piece that you'd want to have removed here, as Hurricane is going to connect into the Sneasler. It's Grassy Seed, not Psychic Seed. Physical defense boost, Sneasler down, Rajan Bal, even though getting off to such a shaky start with the Blastoise down and out so early on, is still able to secure the victory here. So could it now be the stream where finally Mark Mullender loses that 6-0 undefeated record? Perhaps. Rajan's up one game, still plenty of time to go for Mark, still some switching up of the game plan, but Ben, what do you want to see?
Well, I want to see Blastoise doing a little bit more than it did in the first game. Maybe actually not coming to this game. If I'm really honest, if I'm getting my analytical head back in gear, I think it was a good thing to try. And you called it out, Charlie. You might as well just give it a go and see if your opponent leads in such a way that you have the advantage to give. And perhaps Rajan's really trying to target down some of the choices that Mark's made in previous matches there, but didn't really do enough to justify its spot on the team for me. And I'd like to see Rajan switch that up. As far as Mark goes, I think he played a good game. And actually, looking at how close that end game was, I think if the close combat was able to knock out the Archaludon that turn, I think there was a opportunity there for Mark to win. Slightly uphill, but it did determine as to whether or not the Rillaboom was the faster of Rillaboom and Pelipper, but it was definitely all to play for.
Yeah, both trainers piloting their team so very well, and cannot wait to get into the next game. Is Mark going to be able to turn it around? Let's find out. Let's dive straight into this game 2. Take a dip in the pool with the Blastoise, or maybe it's not going to be brought this time for Rajan. We'll have to see what they're thinking, how they're adapting to Mark's strategy. Yes, there it is! The Blastoise is there, but the switch up is in the other slot instead. It's the Pelipper immediately, in the face of once more the Electabuzz and the Kingambit.
Now, this is definitely a complete switch up here for Rajan. This looks like it's a Blastoise game, and Rajan's really going to try to focus in on making sure that Water Spout's doing as much damage as possible right from the get-go. Now, there is the opportunity for a complete switch up in the back as well here for Rajan. If Pelipper goes for a Tailwind, then you have the opportunity to switch in your Indeedee. The Blastoise has got the opportunity to go for a Terra Water. Terra Water, Rain Boosted, Water Spout would do carry the 2 quite a bit of damage, Charlie. I think that's something that maybe would be able to knock out either Electabuzz, if not the Electabuzz, the Kingambit.
Ben, there's a Mystic Water on that Blastoise as well, let's not forget.
Yeah, there is.
So quite a bit of damage. You're not carrying a 2 there, Ben. You're carrying a 3. That is even more damage than we could possibly have predicted. And it is going to be the Terra Water in the rain. It's always so nice when you're running a weather team going up against an opposing team that doesn't have access to any kind of weather control. Rajan breathing a sigh of relief saying, yep, time to go all in on the Blastoise. Not the Indeedee switching in, though, to protect it from a Sucker Punch. And a good thing, too, because the Kingambit just going for a Protect there as opposed to that. There's Wide Guard coming out to protect against the Electro Web, but actually the Taunt coming out from Mark's Electabuzz here. Both these trainers firing on all cylinders, calling them turn for turn. Water Spout, fascinated to see how much this is going to do into the Electabuzz. Of course, it would have ignored a Follow Me Anyway, being a spread damaging move. Into the Electabuzz here, I'm imagining bringing it down. Okay, that's lower than I expected, down to just 11 HP here. So removing a pivotal supportive piece for Mark, so that 5 times fast, potentially really early on.
Now, the difference here is that, unlike the last game where Dragonite was able to get the Tailwind up before the Kingambit was going to move, well, naturally Pelipper's a little bit slower. Maybe the Kingambit's still not quite fast enough to be able to launch an attack off before the Tailwind goes up, and the Electro Web speed drops from this Electabuzz would be able to stop Blastoise going for a Water Spout or Muddy Water in the rain first. But yeah, we know now that the Pelipper is able to go on the offensive. It can't use its Tailwind, it can't use its Wide Guard, it has to just go for damage.
You can almost hear Rajan after that very first turn of the very first game saying, I should have led with Pelipper alongside Blastoise instead. And so just really benefiting from now coming into this game too, being able to get so much mileage out of that. Mark deciding that Electabuzz is too important and needs to preserve it. Archaludon now coming in immediately. Time for Mark's responding to Terastallization here. It's going to be into this Kingambit over on their side of the field, becoming a pure Dark type here. So boosting up the power of its Sucker Punch, for example. Of course, Mark doesn't know that Rajan had locked into that switch up. Maybe predicting another wide guard there, but the Electabuzz switching out anyway, as Blastoise is going to retreat into its shell, just scout out from behind that shield. Sucker Punch, of course, not doing anything because no damage coming out from Rajan's side of the field. Rillaboom very much threatening down the Blastoise here, but you don't necessarily mind just switching it out if you're Rajan.
Not at all, and again, back to game one, I don't think Rajan really minds too much if Archaladon starts to rack up those defense boosts with stamina. If you get a fake out into it, if a Grassy Glide goes into there, it's always this game that Mark has to be really aware of, and I think has been playing quite well around. He's targeting he's been targeting different slots rather than trying to target down the Archaladon as quickly, and Rajan has been the one that's trying to boost up the Archaladon and get it into a good spot. But you called it, Charlie. Blastoise gonna be getting on out of here.
Time for a supportive piece to come out from Rajan. Magmar, almost the rival, the unofficial rival of Electabuzz here. Both sharing so many similarities in the regulation set H and S game. Fake Out not going to be providing a thing into that slot. The Electro Shot, same cannot be said for that, giving a special attack boost to the Archaladon for Rajan. Firing down into this Kingambit, taking neutral damage, and I say neutral, but it looked really, really threatening as Swords Dance comes out for Mark. And of course, now Mark knows all of Rajan's 4 Pokemon. There's no Indeedee lurking in the back. You cannot switch that in and block a priority Sucker Punch, or indeed Grassy Glide.
This is such a hard situation now for Mark to be able to deal with now, because the Kingambit's gone for its Swords Dance. Yes, it started to get boosted up, yes, but the Follow Me user has come in, and so that completely disables the Kingambit's Sucker Punch, where the Pokemon that you're targeting down has to be attacking where Sucker Punch is to be effective in a battle. That gives Rajan a lot of opportunity to get this Archaladon really going with the Electro Shots. Can just freely target down into the Kingambit slot. The Rillaboom doesn't do too much damage. High horsepower is probably going to do about 50% to the Magmar, but with that grassy terrain recovery as well, the Magmar is going to be able to hold on pretty effectively.
I think if you're Mark as well, you're sort of primed not to target too many attacks into the Archaladon, given how those stamina boosts prove so crucial in the end game there. That gives Rajan a little bit more breathing room too. Electro Shot now boosting up the special attack once more. Even if it's going into a Protect, you still get the boost. That's a really great advantage of this move, and it is going to be firing down into the Kingambit slot. Is the Electabuzz going to go down here? Yeah, the Overheat connecting down into Mark's Electabuzz, dropping the special attack stat significantly of the Magmar. It doesn't matter too much, it's in the rain anyway, so it wouldn't be dealing out too much damage with the Overheat, which is its only damaging move here, other than Clear Smog, which isn't there necessarily to provide damage per se. And so now that is a crucial piece of the puzzle removed for Mark.
It's a really good turn for Mark as well, a really good attempt. And you've got this sort of dual purpose to switching in the Electabuzz there. If Rajan had targeted into the Kingambit completely as it protected, then the Electabuzz would get in, you get a Follow Me, and you're able to launch out some attacks on the Kingambit, may be able to knocking out that Magmar in one turn for Terra Dark, Kowtow Cleave. But if not, the Electabuzz goes down, the Rillaboom comes in, and you've got an active Fake Out on the board, and you can, again, try to use that Kingambit effectively. Archaladon hasn't had too many boosts to its defense with stamina just yet, and so that 2+ Kingambit is still putting on a great deal of pressure.
Physical attack into the Archaladon, of course, is, well, I mean, Fake Out, first of all, is going to boost up its defenses. Archaladon no more for its physical attack, and for its physical defense. That's why we often see it holding the Assault Vest to bolster up its special defense in turn. Follow Me in the face of, well, of course, the Fake Out going out first into Archaladon, but Kingambit will be redirected into the Magmar slot here. Oh my goodness, absolutely massive damage thanks to the Swords Dance that it went for before. And Magmar down for Rajan, so both the Electabuzz and the Magmar, both of the Follow Me users for these trainers, are going to be down. And we know that for Rajan, you have the Pelipper lurking in the back that can just reset that rain. But you want to be targeting down the Rillaboom here because it's also the Blastoise just lurking, and it can't achieve a great deal whilst Rillaboom is there.
It's a really tough situation for that Blastoise staring down a Rillaboom, but Pelipper doesn't mind it quite as much with access to Hurricane and a good super effective damage into that grass type, and most importantly that Rillaboom can't go for its Terra either in this situation. One of the questions that you've got to ask though when you're playing against a Kingambit is how do you knock it out? Well, usually a lot of the time that's give it two things that it really does want to target down. Both the Archaladon and the Pelipper with its Weather Ball would be able to knock out this King Gambit from this range. So Mark has got to be really careful about how he targets down either the Archaludon or the Pelipper, but I think in this spot where you're feeling a little bit behind, you've got that Blastoise in the back, you've really got to be committing to taking out one of these Pokemon on Rajan's side.
Sucker Punch pretty safe here, and that's massive damage into Rajan's Archaludon here, because of course Archaludon only has attacking moves at its disposal. This Archaludon is boosting up and up. It's feeling the electricity flowing through it more and more. Now at +3 of its special attack, targeting right back down into the King Gambit, so likely removing that from the field here. Marked down to the final 2 Pokemon, one of which will be this Rillaboom. Now, how is this Pelipper responding? Is it going to be paving the way for the Blastoise for it to have a fun splash in the pond? Well, after this high horsepower, which Archaludon is able to hang on through, the stamina boost now racking up and up here, will be the Hurricane connecting down into the Rillaboom, and it's going to be taking it down to very low HP, not quite enough for the knockout, but that, you know, it's low enough to for now really any attack to coming out from Rajan's side of the field to secure the knockout. And with just this Sneasler in the back, it's going to be outspeeding the Blastoise, so it's still pretty fine margins here.
Quite fine margins, but you've got to just hang your head for the timing there of the grassy terrain leaving the field, and the Sneasler not being able to get its Unburden boost from the Grassy Seed, but also the Rillaboom not going to have access to any priority moves. And again, depending on the training of this Rillaboom and the Pelipper, if the Pelipper outspeeds the Rillaboom, it's going to be able to launch out a Hurricane to be able to knock out this Rillaboom, and there's not a lot that Rillaboom can be able to do. But also it does get the opportunity to go for a Tailwind as well. Now Mark going for the Dire Claw, trying desperately to get that extra little status condition in his favour, but doesn't succeed as well. Archaludon goes like a bridge and goes for the Electroshock.
Goes like a bridge.
Yeah, you know what? It was looking like a bridge. I was going for something there, Charlie. It didn't land, but that Electroshock did land, as did the Tailwind on Rajan's side. He's setting himself up for victory and taking India into the top 8.
Into the top 8 with a Blastoise, no less. I love this team. Squirtle was my first partner Pokemon of choice when I started my Pokemon journey with Pokemon Blue years and years ago. What was yours, Ben?
Do you know what? I'm not actually sure, but I think it was Bulbasaur.
You think it was Bulbasaur? Okay, well, Sneasler is going to take that Dragon Pulse, is going to be down and out. Rajan winning that game with 3 Pokemon in the